Snatch 250.
He didn't snatch 255, did he? You're getting too close. I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. I liked you down at 220.
You're going to see a back brace show up on
Take it
Amazon.
easy.
Like you. Like,
Good morning, Misfits. You are tuning into another episode of the Misfit Podcast.
wow.
We're like in the throes of the holidays right now, but in reality, I would like to say happy Phase 4 day. Today is the very first
That
day
is
of Phase
way
4.
more important than any
That
holidays.
also means that it is 1 rep max back squat day.
Holy fuck.
Pew, pew, pew.
Goodness.
Ahead of,
But
it'll be your favorite squat session for the next 6 weeks.
yes,
The only one
It'll
yes.
be the only one you're gonna like for the next 6 weeks. So
This
enjoy
is I get plenty of the DMs, like I say at the end of the podcast, but I want people to think throughout this phase of what their favorite day is of the squatting when you're in the meat of the sandwich. So you're gonna have 5x5 one day, 4x4, 3x3 every single week. I want to know what your favorite day is, because we've argued about this internally before. When you don't like reps, your least favorite day is 5x5, and when you don't like going heavy, your least favorite day is the 3x3.
We have one of our members who asked about it because he got like plate set and squat rack and whatnot during the pandemic, and he was like wanting to get strong, so I gave him the squat program, and he is today, the day that we're filming this, about to do the 4x4 at either 85 or 87 and a half, which for me is like that's the day.
Right. Yeah, there is that too. So there's like, is there a specific day?
Oh, that's what I thought you meant. You mean like what's your favorite
Of the
5s,
columns,
4s,
Yeah,
or 3s?
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like which
okay.
which one of those is your favorite?
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to hear that. But yes, also towards the end, week 6.
Fuck.
Let me know how you're feeling.
We're
Let me know
really
how it's
banking
going.
that you got stronger in the preceding three or 4 weeks.
So things have slowed down a touch with the holidays and everything, I think, both for us and everybody else. But this week in Misfit, we have the Phase 4 podcast dropped a week ago today on Monday. And it is one of our longest phase podcasts that we've done in quite a while. And it's also one of the best ones. I think we really peek under the hood a bit more than we normally do and went down some tangents that I think are super important, both for executing on Phase 4, but just, again, having this understanding of what it means to be an athlete in this sport and how to tackle certain things and how to deal with all of the noise that again, we want to talk about at Quarterfinals prep camp. But
We talked internally about it too, like afterwards, like how fun that podcast was, because one of our favorite things to do is, a couple of exercise nerds over here, is just talk about like what we can accomplish in some potentially training modalities you've never used before. So like talking about the maffetone, that's going to be a big feature in Phase 4. I mean, if you are someone who's very interested in all this like Zone 2 talk, you hear Ed and C everywhere. Everyone's talking about airwave mouth guards and this, that, and the other. They're trying to get that like aerobic engine built. If you're really interested in trying to figure out how to develop this pathway you haven't figured out yet, that podcast is gold. So it's one of those ones that I'm going to be sending a lot of my athletes to listen to, because they're often asking, tell me a little bit more about this. Tell me a little bit more about this. And as a coach, we always want to kind of deliver information in bite-sized chunks and not overwhelm someone. But I really think that if you're really someone who enjoys the science and the nitty-gritty behind why we're doing things, that's a great podcast to listen to, specifically about the maffetone stuff.
you had the perfect segue, so I'm throwing it right back to you. You have an athlete who you've taken the barbell away from and who has done a ton of maffetone and who has really sort of kicked into the, the conditioning mindset. She's obviously gotten way weaker. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this weird thing where you get fitter, you kind of get stronger too.
You got to worry more about her catching up to your 255 before I
was talking to someone yesterday at our other affiliate, and we joked, and we sent it around our coaching group the other day when she hit that 200-pound snatch, Sophie Shaft, that like, who here is going to do their 1 rep max and beat Sophie in our coaching group? And then I got talking to someone over there in Wyndham.
Not many.
And they're like, how much lifting is she doing? How is she able to do this? And I'm like, you wouldn't believe this, but she barely touches a barbell unless it's in a metcon. The only way I'm going to allow her to really do a lot of strength work is if it comes at the end of a decent amount of conditioning, because going back to her performance at the games this past year, that was the glaring weakness. She has a big hole in her game when it comes to that long stuff. So if we can get someone to develop that energy system while just working on their general fitness, things like getting stronger and aren't actually accidents. They're just not something that we were intending to do. And it's clearly evident that her getting fitter is what allowed her to hit, we're talking a squat clean PR, a back squat PR, and a snatch PR all within 10 days. And she does not do lifting
and
as
also
a primary feature in her training.
And elite level numbers. And when we say CrossFit Games elite level, not wow, really good job compared to what you had before. It's like we're stacking up against.
I mean, if you put her
podium
new
games finishers,
1 rep max against the individual females that tested this year, 205 was the winning score. She was 5 pounds behind that, and she narrowly missed 205. She
honestly, it was close enough that you could say she didn't miss.
Training make.
She just knew that it would have been a really bad idea to do the split snatch, stand up from one knee. She knew better than to tear her knee to shreds to have the PR.
And to her credit, having the gymnastics background and understanding how to move around a barbell is a huge reason why she's able to do what she does. But to me as the coach, the coolest thing is seeing her buy
to me counter one.
What's that?
Almost,
to me.
Almost did it again. That would have been 2.
So what's really cool though is for her to buy in to the idea of hey, if we separate and we put that barbell in the corner for a bit and kind of save it for metcons, but really focus on this really big gap in your game. And if you just trust me to, follow along for a little bit, I promise when you get a chance to go touch that barbell again, you're going to see it. And to me, nothing is cooler than seeing her being able to do that in actual practice. Because as a coach, we want to talk to our athletes and say, here's the roadmap. And if you just follow along, I promise at the end, there's going to be that pot of gold. Trying to get someone to do that's not always the easiest thing. I was going
to say a little bit of credit where credit's due. If she didn't trust the coach athlete relationship, then probably not going to do it. And she's obviously we bought in. Maybe it's hey, if you're that run toe to bar finish or what was it was a 4 mile run, was it for her? What was the?
It was 4.5,
4.5 mile run. Hey,
16, 17.
Couple minutes faster, and you're on the podium at the CrossFit Games. Yeah, sure, maybe that's the motivation. Maybe it has nothing to do with you, but it's either way, you present that information, the athlete takes it and says, "I'm going to take onus of my training." And it's paying off.
Props to her too, because a lot of athletes have that very beginning right after an event. They I was terrible at squat cleans or at GHDs or something that really stuck out in a competition and all they want to do is that same thing over and over again. And
hammer
after
it for a week and a half.
Yeah, after a couple of weeks they burn out and they go back to doing what they'd like to do traditionally with training. For her to have the foresight to be all right, I'm just going to keep plodding and plodding and plodding. That's not an easy thing. It's simple, but not easy. You just keep putting in the work over and over again. It's something you're very passionate about improving. For that to happen, and then for PRs to also happen in addition to that, that's very cool.
Definitely an important.
Ooh, that was a good catch.
Definitely a good maturing, a reminder of, or show you can show her hey, this is you maturing as an athlete who's a young,
cool.
a young woman. You have to that there's a level of onus that she's clearly taken in her own training.
The athlete IQ that has improved so much over the last 18 months or so. Very proud of the effort she's put in, and I want to continue to do that because we got a big season coming.
One place that you can go, 2 different things that you can do to figure out what the F we're talking about. Phase 4 is live at misfitathletics.com. You're going to find the Maffetone test in there, and then within your weekly work and 1 day a week after that. Also, click on the blog tab. A CrossFitter's Guide to Zone 2 training is in there. There was a cousin of this article that existed with a lot of scientific jargon that got thrown in the trash. And my goal within this article is to say, what is it? How do you do it? Who is it for? And then I have a frequently asked questions section where you go through and the questions that our athletes send right to us when they're trying to figure all this out. So both of those things can be found at misfitathletics.com.
You also wrote a good article about that, taking the turning stimuli into the goal of trying to turn all the workouts into conditioning workouts, and why people like Matt and T are able to kind of beat everybody at every single conditioning piece. Is another good reason why you'd want to take the time to read the article that you're talking about, Drew.
Sure.
It's you take this training stimulus and you realize that when we put you up up against, muscular overload or gas or cardio workouts. They're all designed to work on specific things with the eventual goal of being able to turn more workouts into cardio workouts for you because you've developed this robust fitness. Again, just give me another reason why, if you're like on the fence about trying this thing and you hear us talking about it, and you're like, you really want me to commit an hour this many times a week to doing this?
Yeah.
Yes,
if
we
you
really
read
do.
those, you'll understand why. And if you are willing to put the work in, you'll know why you put that work in at the very end when you're lapping your fellow competitors.
Yeah, I think a piece that's missing from what people understand about how this stuff works is how we can explain what is happening to Sophie is when you take an athlete that has more power output, that has more type 2 fast twitch fibers, and you spend hours upon hours upon hours developing type 1 fibers, not only are you making it easier to go in and crank out more 95-pound front squats, but you're also just building up this support system on your ankles and your knees and your hips and your low back and your shoulders. And we're creating the connective tissue that builds this, strong, upright, good posture type of athlete. And there's really no other way to do it. Of course, you can do accessory work, but are you going to get, you get thousands of revolutions on the bike. Hunter gets millions within minutes.
Zillions.
Are you going to get
billions.
that are you going to grab a 1 pound dumbbell and just stand there and fake ski with your 1 pound dumbbell? Probably not.
Might try it.
You might try it.
The arms
So-
only assault bike thing's getting fucking irritating, but we're working on it.
So that's just sort of a peek into what the article describes and tells you how these things go in and, you feel better in this category, that category. There's also the mental aspect to it and all that good stuff.
Ted might have to delete this if we decide to, but
I can't wait for this now.
No, it's not. You'll understand what I mean when I say it. But
I'm gonna take my ears out of my hat.
for the for the followers. One thing that's important for phase 4 is it is optional. So all the Maffetone stuff is optional. The test is on Tuesday
Yep.
or day 2, and then the other one is I think day 5, and then weekly work. So there's three
it's
possible
present.
sessions.
It's present 2 days of weekly work, which are mandatory if you want to get better at what you're doing. We just the level of adoption is what we're chasing. So you're going to see on a training day, your morning movement is Maffetone work.
Yeah.
So you can't just scroll over that like. We understand that if Sherb writes a specific morning movement and you just want to get out of bed and do some burpees and then some air squats and some push-ups, thumbs up.
Good enough.
Like you having your own routine with that is fantastic. But 1 day a week, your morning movement is going to be that Maffetone zone 2, zone 3, zone XYZ, whatever training. And then one of your weekly work pieces, which is to be on an active rest day, typically a Thursday or a Sunday, is also that. Those are mandatory. It might not read that way, but those are definitely mandatory. Yeah. The non-mandatory is how we go in and personalize it and say, an athlete's like, my endurance isn't great and I want tangible evidence from week 1 to week 7 that this energy system has been improved.
Yeah. If you are that athlete, I would say get your at least 2, if not all 3 days a week for the full phase and see what happens.
People want to know how Caroline became this CrossFit Games athlete from someone who was kind of on the bubble for so many years to finally burst in that bubble and jump in. I mean, when we had the pandemic and people were forced to train at home and figure out creative ways to get fit, like potentially doing box jumps in place of deadlifts and, I'm going to run a bunch. We saw her commit to, all right, can I borrow a C2 bike from the gym and can I do a bunch of running? And what that did for her fitness, it developed a pathway of hers that she previously didn't have and allowed her to, I think, to break through. That was one of the things we all said when we came back from the pandemic is, holy shit, how fit is Caroline right now? And she wasn't doing the gym thing as her normal deal. Like she was still going to the gym when she could, but a lot of that stuff was done on her own with lots of meters and miles, either on the bike or on her feet. And
all right, as much as we would love for this to be another Zone 2 podcast,
why not?
We do have to move on. Final shout out for this week in Misfit is the community at large. So again, it is our dream for us to sit here and rant like this and then to see the adoption, to see these things take place. We've said in the past, this like migration from MFT to Hatchet for a lot of athletes is awesome, and it still is. So that shout out stays alive and well. But then looking at these test and retest things, that first layer really is just, I know what my score was, and I'm going to work hard for 5 weeks and then try to beat it out the other side.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have that in your head of like, this was the one that really annoyed me, and I am going to try to get better at it. So even at that top level, there isn't always adoption of that test retest model. And we're seeing a ton of that. We're seeing people go in and we're seeing people willing to post. Of course, if you get a 90-second PR, that's
Fuck
amazing.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. And that's what you want to see. But then we see people that are fired up, that are at a higher level, about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 second PRs, even in a longer piece. So that adoption right there is like super key. Then now we're seeing another layer to that. The second shout out is going to be that skill work. So we do specifically within our metcon test and our interval test, we're going to pick out one piece that's more skill-based, and we're going to work on it in a progression for 5 weeks in the middle. You're going to have this exact same thing within phase 4. But you see that, and now we're seeing like the idea of rewind to 2013 and say that we're going to see double dumbbell overhead lunge Instagram videos. Yeah, no.
Dumbbells resting on heads.
You filmed all your lifts. You filmed all your lifts, and the day that all the Hail Marys you said worked, that's the day that you posted, right? That's what was on there.
Oh yeah, for 100%.
Now we get story after story of your double dumbbell overhead walking lunges. That's what we want to see. You going in and understanding that, and understanding, even though, you know, okay, this movement might come up once or twice a year, you are working on your mobility. You're dedicating yourself to skill progressions and actually improving on something. So I would say this adoption, graph keeps going up.
Yeah,
and it's fun to see.
Seeing someone separate their ego from their day-to-day training and going into the gym and being like, you know what? This was my score before, and I'm willing to retest it again is a big culture change. Because you see a lot of high-level athletes who start to understand how things are going to go and how things are going to feel. Be like, yeah, I've got that. I would definitely do better this time, but then not do it again because they think it's either a waste of a training day, or maybe they say they're confident, but they're not actually that confident about it, and they don't want to go and experience that pain or that discomfort again. The willingness to just jump back into it and say, I've worked really hard at something for 5 weeks, and I'm going to see what I have. Such a cool change in the community, because for a long time, all these competitors who say they want to be competitive aren't willing to retest things because they're nervous about this, that, or the other. To cast that aside and say, you know what, I've worked really hard at this, and let me show you. Such a great change in the overall attitude amongst just competitors that I've seen, putting us up on social media. So props to those folks.
All right, and we can't forget final thing before we get into our topic. March 12th and 13th, Misfit Athletics Quarterfinals Prep Camp. You can head to misfit.camp to get your tickets. We want you to show up on the 11th and do 22.3 with the Misfit Gym Portland crew. If you sign up, you will be receiving correspondence on how you can sign up for the actual day to come in and do that workout with us.
It's a good time.
It's going to be great. All right. Today's episode, 2022 New Year's resolutions for the Misfit coaches. Now, do we think that you give a shit about our direct fitness?
Fuck, I don't give a shit about your direct fitness.
Wow, that was very.
To you, not
I know
listener,
that was extremely rude. He's lying. He cares. He helps me at the gym.
That is
sometimes.
We are hoping for relatability here. We are hoping for you can pull a nugget out and put it in your own 5-piece.
I gotta go, guys.
Nice.
I'm gonna be.
It's like that Verizon commercial where they all leave.
Slowing down.
Bring me some nuggets.
Wendy's spicy
When's the last time
nugs.
you had chicken nuggets from? Never mind. Keep going.
Chick-fil-A like 3 weeks ago when they opened up.
2 or 3
I was in
days
line
ago?
for like
There's
40
a
minutes.
Chick-fil-A in Westbrook
It's great. I've been there once.
Really?
Yeah.
Where's that bitch?
by Market Basket.
Yeah, right in front of Market Basket.
No fucking
You might
shit.
sit in line for 30 to 3 hours. I don't know. Like 30 minutes to 3 hours.
Maya
but
drove by the day that it opened, and she sent me a message like, what the fuck is wrong
They were
with this
wrapped around Market Basket like 3 times. It was insane.
There were like 1,000 people.
295. It's just like,
Dude, it was incredible. They have 2 lanes and it lapped around the building twice.
is that the only one in this area?
The other one's
the
in
Bangor.
closest one in Boston?
Nah, Bangor's the next closest one. Outside of
Boston's
Boston.
closer than Bangor.
Correct.
Depends on how fast you drive.
No,
I don't think so.
that actually makes zero sense.
Drive 33%
drive a lot
faster.
To me, Bangor is closer. All right.
All right, whatever.
We're gonna start with the fucking star of the gym right
Wait,
now.
you want to go? Can you give people the preview of the topics
No.
that we're gonna cover? Okay,
My
here we go.
face.
In your face.
Topic number 1 is going to start with Hunter. how are you going to get stronger in 2022? And we're bringing this up because
Can't
you
get much
really
stronger.
kind of blew your wad here at the end of 2021
You blew it.
with
Enjoy your
PR
percentage work.
after PR after PR. I asked him this morning when he turned into a real boy with some of those weights he's tossing around. So why don't you tell him how your lifting has been going, and then tell us how you're going to get stronger in 2022.
Not to turn this into too much of an advertisement, but the affiliate programming is where I've been living for pretty much. I don't remember the last time
literally
I did,
and figuratively.
Yeah, literally and figuratively.
Gyms.com.
Yeah, every aside from the occasional video or maybe tag in to do a workout with someone like Caroline, that's been all the affiliate programming.
Plus Zone 2.
What's up?
Plus Zone 2.
Plus Zone 2. That's been a huge part of it for sure. And so snatch PR, 5 rep max, back squat PR, like both all-time PRs. And they're both what I thought was pretty good. Like for me, a good PR also includes like, oh, that was a good looking lift.
Right.
Gotta be a beauty
and
contest.
I hit 245 for a snatch, which is a kind of a looming goal, and I was very happy with how it looked. I think for me, honestly, and maybe this doesn't fall into the strength category as much, but for me, I need to get more comfortable in that like moderate weight range, especially when it comes to like the barbell lifts. So the 1 rep maxes, like those are gonna, I hope those continue to go up a little bit, but I think there's a little bit more of a fixed ceiling on those for most people. Not that I'm claiming to be like at that point, but for my own like overall fitness, being more comfortable moving, the 80% range for 4 reps, not getting as, just trying to hold on to a barbell for longer, regardless of what that is. I don't know if does that meet the strength
No,
requirement?
you are telling us what
How I'm
your
gonna get
goal
fitter.
is. How are you going to do something about it?
No pressure. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
I'm gonna continue just following. I'm not gonna go off on like a strength specific program. I think the things that I'll do this. The things that have helped me the most that I've noticed when I have my best lifting days is warming up really well. Like, and I'm talking 10 to 15 minutes. Like I've been kind of doing the zone 2 warm up ahead of affiliate classes, even if it's only a lifting session, and just being sweaty, being kind of like, the groove has been greased, so to speak. Lifting sessions are always a lot better. Same thing this morning for when we back squatted, like we were both on bikes and runners, just trying to get sweaty. So
Drenched.
the really effective warm up. And then I've also taken a little bit more time, specifically after lifting sessions or after heavy sessions to stretch and mobilize a little bit more. I would say I used to be able to get away with less of that while still being, flexible and mobile enough to get myself into good positions. But if I don't do that, that's when things like, my knees start to ache a little bit. If I don't do like the glute activation stuff before my session, things don't go as well. So I think to answer the question, the goal would be for the year to continue to be diligent about warming up and cooling down on the opposite sides of the strength session. Because I do believe in like the program enough that I'm not going to go off and do like additional strength work to get stronger. And over the past 2 or 3 years, like basically since I kind of moved back
Doesn't
here,
look you need to.
like, yeah, it's, the numbers have been going up. If I'm not like, the only thing that it would do by adding more lifting in is just maybe make the numbers go up slightly faster. But that's not like a kind of macro goal I have of mine. It's get a little bit stronger for a long time continuously.
So we've got essentially the idea what gets measured gets managed. So you are going to have the magnifying glass on moving heavier weight 4 reps. You're going to keep doing what you're doing. Pay attention to that.
Yep.
Get
and
stronger.
then the specific to that would be a good, like the goal is like, hey, you don't get to skip the warm up, your like additional warm up. Like make sure you're moving for at least 10, hopefully 15 minutes to get sweaty beforehand, and then still like do the body work post heavy lifting so that that I can maintain that output.
How are you going to get stronger in 2022, Matthew?
So
Lift with me.
yeah, I gotta lift with Hunter more often. Need my ego fired up a bit more. Honestly, for me, one of the things that I struggle with when it comes to strength is keeping motor patterns consistent as the barbell weight increases. Because I've taken a lot of time to really try to dial in how I move around a barbell, because for so long it was just be an ogre, rip the thing off the floor and dive underneath it and pray that you're strong enough to stand up with it, which took me a decent amount of the way there. But eventually that leads to burnout, injury, bad patterns, and then wondering why every single time there's a high heart rate that I can't do anywhere near my maximal lift. So improving how I move through lots of skill-based sessions and lots of warm-ups. As the coach at the gym, one of the things I tell our athletes, if you want to see what it takes to be really good at weightlifting, go watch, one of those Astagrass videos, or, one of those barbell hook grip videos. Go watch those people.
ATG
lift.
stands for All Things Gym, in
All
case
Things
anyone's
Gym,
actually looking
Astagrass.
for the account.
Yeah,
also,
thanks.
it's teammisfit.com, not teammisfitgyms.com. Keep going.
Anyways, look, go watch them warm up. They'll spend somewhere between 20 and 60 minutes with an empty bar before they really get into the heat of their session, like that, before the barbell actually puts on any weight. And that is because it takes thousands upon thousands of reps to get good at moving around a barbell. So the big picture thing for me to get stronger is improving my motor patterns. And actually something I texted you about the other day, with all the snatch work we've had with Team Misfit here, we spent a phase doing some tempo snatches, and then we started doing some heavier snatches this phase. And you and I had talked about trying to connect the dots between moving very, very well with lightweight and how that translates to heavyweight, and how to bridge the gap between, I need to be able to do a 1 rep max that's super heavy, but not have it look completely opposite of what I was doing my skill work. And for me, it's being willing to go closer to failure more often, trying to look through the lens of, yes, I want to move really, really well, but I do need to test myself every once in a while to see if all the changes I've put in at those lighter percentages can carry over to heavy percentages. If I always live with light barbells, I'm always going to feel a very certain way when I get back to that heavy barbell.
Yeah.
And that's not, again, permission to say, cool, I did 10 reps at, 40%. I might as well just put, 95% on and, heave it. No. You take percentage work, which we try to build into every single phase that we have for multiple different lifts, and say, all right, we're going to start a little bit lighter and build a little bit heavier each week. And the idea behind that linear progression is all of the stuff we learned early in the phase carries over further and further and further, and becomes how you move every single time you move a barbell. So the two things I'm going to focus upon are making sure that I continue to have the same motor patterns through, watching myself or asking for feedback from coaches. And then 2, being willing to get closer to failure more often and stop living in that comfort zone. Because after, 12-ish years of CrossFit training, like, you might think that you've sort of peaked and you'll never ever get back to your old maxes. And that, to me, is a bad headspace to be in. I might not snatch 265 again for a very long time. That doesn't mean I'm just going to give up on the goal of trying to snatch more than I ever did. I want to be able to do more, because that, to me, is what's really fun about CrossFit training, is that you're always looking for what's next. What is the new thing that I can do? So between those two kind of arms, I think I can accomplish that goal of getting stronger.
Boom.
I like the be willing to go to failure a little bit more. I find like I live in that zone as well, where been training a similar amount of time that, like, yeah, I know what I could guess within a couple pounds, what my 5 rep or 3 rep or 1 rep is going to be on this given day, and just kind of succumbing to, like, well, that is what it is.
Yeah,
like,
check.
or check. Yep. Not being willing to occasionally make that jump and fail. So good.
All right.
Anecdote.
My 2 goals. Number 1, bench press 315 pounds. Number 2,
wheels?
get my legs to a point where Cody will stop making fun of me on Instagram when I am a Sharpen the Axe model.
Good luck.
Yeah, I don't know if that's ever gonna happen.
Even when I was really strong, my legs were very big. So I don't know exactly how to pull that off. They're a little long for that.
Let me know if you figure that out, because I'm going to try getting the same program.
Got it. Action steps to get there. So basically right now, the way that I train is I do longer aerobic work every other day and CrossFit every other day. So some days it's 4 days of this, 3 days, or some weeks it's 4 days of this, 3 days of that, and then vice versa. What I do not do that I am planning on trying to do more often is on my aerobic days having a strength session. The issue with this is scheduling wise. The closer these sessions are together, the less effective they are according to research. Yeah. So like making sure that I do my fasted cardio in the morning and then doing a strength session in the afternoon to go in and do that. So, my answer, relatable to people who are closer to the general fitness kind of community. And the, bench and 3 lollipops is, been a goal of mine.
That's pretty cool. That's
3
a good goal.
bronies. That is a nice goal. Next.
You guys talked for so long that my phone went to sleep. Yeah.
You fell asleep and the phone fell asleep.
All right. How are you going to improve your overall fitness in 2022?
Start with me again?
Yeah.
Time?
You're up.
I got to know the order so I can think about it in my head.
The next one's skill.
Fitness. Oh, okay. Oh, that's easy.
Oh, what's that?
Never heard of her. Okay, improve overall fitness. I'm going to continue the zone 2 work. So I've been doing this. We all have been doing this to at least some degree over probably the last year, and it's now coming back to the blog.
What machine? You going to mix it up more? Are you going to keep rocking until you hit a certain, do you have any sort of specific goals within it?
We've talked a lot about the upper body pulling equivalent kind of that sort of thing.
Yep.
And everybody can picture me looking like a complete idiot, which I do.
Done.
Standing, so assault bike, I've done it both standing in front of the bike, so like facing the wheel.
I wish I could see
like
you doing that,
push,
Jim.
pull, back and forth on the
Straddling the
handles.
wheel? It's a kid's
Straddling
show.
the wheel. And then you can also picture me straddling the seat. So I'm standing on the
straddling
rear.
Kids show.
The
Where's
rear
Brady when we need
on
him?
the back support and pushing and pulling. So I've kind of been trying to figure out if that's going to work. So I would like to. That would be cool.
Yep.
But probably more realistically, I will stick with like the bike, run, ski. The kind of until I kind of figure out whether it is the
I have a
assault bike thing, or we've kind of floated around some different ideas. But
I've got a listener question. Anyone out there in the rowing community, how do you row for 45 to 90 minutes without ripping the skin off of your hand?
Lots of tape. Heard
Tape?
that. Pro tip. Yeah, they'll tape these knuckles.
Oh, they tape their hands, not the handle.
Yeah.
Because like people online told me to wear gloves, and I was like, I don't know. We haven't met, but I ain't putting fucking gloves on.
Drew to see. We see you in the gym wearing gloves, biker gloves. Look like my dad over there on the rower.
Oh,
My dad wears biker gloves.
Call FJW and see if you can hit me up with some gloves. All right.
Yeah.
Did you finish your answer?
No. So that's the one thing. Definitely continue with the zone 2 work, and then this is more similar to you being willing to kind of push yourself in that zone. I've found that I have gotten stronger, a little bit stronger kind of on the maximal end. So like I was saying, in that 90% plus numbers seem to be going up, which is awesome, especially for me. On the complete opposite end, my zone 2 work has gotten a lot more comfortable as far as like paces at certain heart rates, and I've noticed that has improved my at least breathing within metcons. I get out of breath significantly less often. Get out of breath significantly. You like that?
I did.
I saw you over there.
We know.
Like that? But the problem is that I need to mesh those two worlds up, and part of it is like the heavier barbell like cycling. That's just not something I've ever been super comfortable with, but probably more specifically is the kind of the black hole training that we talk about. It's not like
You're trying to make an omelet with whole eggs.
Yeah
Break
egg whites.
shells.
More like egg whites.
Ooh,
or
soft.
Whole eggs.
Gross.
And shells.
Egg white and shell omelet.
I've got the long duration stuff. The heavy stuff is what it is, and hopefully continues to improve. But I need to get more comfortable with like basically the CrossFit stuff. Not more comfortable, but match my newfound capacity
and
thanks to the
confidence.
zone 2 work and the confidence and the newfound strength. And now all of a sudden those middle moderate weight barbells are theoretically should be a little bit heavier, and I need to get more comfortable moving them. So as far as goals, it's continuing the zone 2 work, and then it's probably more of a strategy thing. It's identifying workouts that provide the opportunity to, it's sets of 25 thrusters, it's 5 sets of 25 thrusters where it's like, you can do it. It's going to kind of hurt. You don't really want to do it, but
you should follow Comp Block 1 in February at misfitathletics.com.
I know.
Those sets exist.
But I need to get more comfortable with those, like continuing to push kind of my like almost like in workout threshold to match up with my aerobic fitness.
Sherb.
I mean, it's pretty close to what I was going to say for me. I used a lot of the Zone 2 training and trying to take that fitness that's been cultivated there and plug it back into metcons, because you have all this data and all this information about how your breathing changes and what your muscles feel like and what heart rates respond to, how your heart rate responds and what that means in a metcon. One of the things that you both you and I like to do is pull up our Whoop and potentially look occasionally during the workouts, like during a rest period, what's my heart rate doing? Is it going from 140 back to 110? Is that telling me that I'm now comfortable and okay? And what does that heart rate feel like? And essentially learning how your body physiologically responds to different heart rates and different stimuli. But for me, mostly it's the foresight into pacing. It's using your athlete IQ.
If you didn't say it, I was going to.
Yeah. For using your athlete IQ to help you understand what pace you need to use in a workout, because every single thing we do is a different gear. We're not a car with 3 gears or 5 gears. We're a car with, 500 gears, and knowing the difference between the pacing in a 4-minute workout and a 6-minute workout versus an 8 or a 12 is a very challenging thing for an athlete to develop. But when you have a better insight in that, you come up with a better game plan and you stay more consistent, because they judge you on the time it takes you to do the total amount of work, not how long it took you to do the first round or the last round or the middle round, but the entire body of work. And for me, the thing I struggle with most is being able to stay consistent in a workout that requires you to stay at a very similar pace for an extended period of time. So the thing that I want to really address is that like 14 to 20 minute window, because if we're in the 10, 12 minutes, I still feel relatively comfortable with my capacity that I could kind of hang with the hunters of the world. I'm definitely not a games level athlete, but consider myself a pretty fit person. But we start pushing 14 to 20 minutes, that's where a lot of that aerobic Zone 2 stuff starts to kick in a bit more. I need to be able to call upon my pacing and how my body feels to inform me on how I should approach those workouts, because at least one per year is going to be kind of in that 14 to like 20 minute window. And I don't want a score that's clearly different from everything else and something that I've put a lot of work into to be sabotaged by just a poor plan. So for me, it's understanding and reading, taking more time to read workouts and figuring out how that's going to play out with my physiology.
Yeah, you guys are saying similar things, but they're actually opposite. So just to quickly synthesize, for people listening, Hunter and Sherb are actually like very similar athletes in terms of potential. Hunter maximizes his fitness typically when he's working out, but what he's saying is sometimes in training, maybe it's a touch too safe. Like it's sort of a gamification of the workout. I get the top score. Excellent. That might not lead to peak Hunter. Whereas Sherb, who has a fairly similar skill level, fitness level as Hunter, he typically will set the world record at the beginning of a workout and then have to sort of come back to the median and then try to catch up at the end. So you're kind of, Hunter's trying to be a bit more reckless, and you're trying to go in and say, this workout might take me maybe even a little bit longer than it normally would, but to know that I can go in and put whatever 3-minute and 30-second rounds in, round after round after round, is going to teach you how to do that and push a touch harder when it's time to compete.
And we had a great opportunity yesterday with the Team Misfits programming. It was a dumbbell snatch, burpee box, jump over, toe to bar workout. And of those 3 things that are in the workout, the thing I struggle with most is being able to do toes to bar when I'm very, very fatigued. And that really is the test there. And I don't like dumbbell snatches, and I don't like burpee box jump overs, which was very evident by my 21.2 score. So I poured a lot of energy into that, trying to buy time to do more toes to bar, but also putting myself in a situation where it's like, this is what toes to bar is going to feel like when I'm competing. If I'm going to go back and compete again, I'm not going to feel like everything's great and my breathing's under control and my grip feels fine. I'm going to be in this very uncomfortable spot. And there's something really cool that happens with an athlete that I've noticed happen to myself a couple of times, kind of with almost like a jet stream of fitness, where like some days, no matter how terrible my breathing feels, I can just keep going. And that is like a psychological breakthrough, because you can tell yourself like, hey, even though I'm really uncomfortable, I can go up there and do 3 more. I can go 2 more. And while those are not impressive sets by a maximal standpoint, no one gives a fuck what your maximal set is if you win the workout. Like no one cares that, oh, great, you started a set of 20. Great, who cares? You did 30 less than the person in front of you.
And then
That's
you took a
not great.
nap.
Exactly. It's one of those things that, I thought was fun yesterday. And one of the things I have on here with my my mindset is don't always need to race somebody in a day-to-day workout. But yesterday I did use you as someone to push against. Like,
Don't skip ahead.
I need to get ahead of Hunter and get to the pull-up bar because I know he's very good with toes to bar. I got to try to buy a couple more seconds. So, when he's hanging on for sets of 6 and I'm hanging on for sets of 4, that I get 1 or 2 more extra sets and I can catch back up. So for me, it's just taking a workout, understanding what you could get from it, and then being very intentional with how you pace it, because that is going to be how you move the needle, because every single workout can affect Hunter one way and me completely opposite because we have different goals when going into it.
All right, Misfits, just a quick break to shout out our show sponsors and hopefully save you a little bit of dough. This podcast is brought to you by Proper Fuel. You can head to properfuel.co and use the code word Misfit to save on your very first order, whether that be your post-workout nutrition, your pre-workout nutrition, your travel post-workout nutrition. You can find all of that at properfuel.co. I personally designed all of these products and did it all based on peer-reviewed scientific research. I know that I can take the products myself and have them work. I know that I can feel really good about going to the athletes who put so much time and effort into what they do. I can say, hey, this is designed for you specifically, and know that that's real. Properfuel.co. Use the code word Misfit on your first order.
We're also brought to you by the best CBD products in the game, Pure Spectrum CBD. Use the code word Misfit to save on all your first order, or all orders, excuse me.
All your first order?
All in first. First and all in first.
order you make.
One of the things we talked about in today's episode is getting your lifestyle and mindset in check as you're going into 2022 year. One of the things I've found I really struggle with is trying to tap into like the parasympathetic, that rest and digest, be chill, be relaxed. And one of the things I've found that augments that the most is going to be that 2,500 milligram Black Label tincture. So something I've been trying to do in my evening routine every single day as I'm winding down, taking my vitamin D, some other medications, whatnot, is I'm going to mix in a little bit of that, Pure Spectrum CBD, because again, that's going to help me have a better night's sleep, which is going to make me a better human being in the following day. So again, head to Pure Spectrum CBD, use the code word Misfit to save on any order of their CBD products.
And we are also brought to you by Sharpen the Axe. You can head to sharpentheaxeco.com, check out the best swag in the game. The only reason I'm not wearing the most recently released black Misfit heavyweight hoodie is because I'm washing it for the first time in 3 weeks. So
don't dry it too much. Don't dry it on high.
Well, no. See, what I did was it was a little bit big, so I had to I incrementally increased the temperature on my dryer.
Take it out, put it on, put it back in.
Was too big.
Listen, guy. Did you listen to the first part of this podcast? I'm the strongest man alive.
That's true.
Sharpentheaxeco.com, and you can also be sure to visit us at the Wadapalooza Fitness Festival, January 13th. I don't know. We're gonna be around there the whole weekend. So swing by the booth for stuff that ain't gonna be online first. So
or maybe ever.
And there's some cool stuff.
Some gems.
It's good enough that you should book a flight right now.
Absolutely. 100%. Sharpentheaxeco.com. Don't forget, use the code word Kiala to save 10% and donate 10% to an incredible cause.
When I see everybody out in the world, which hasn't happened all that often, so you should come see it us at Wadapalooza. I love the podcast. I love the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for the tips. If you want to support what we do, if you want to see more of that stuff, then you need to head to misfitathletics.com or the SugarWOD marketplace to join the programming that we're talking about nonstop. If you are an affiliate member, copy and paste teammisfit.com or the SugarWOD marketplace and click on our little thing and find that link and send it to your affiliate owner and start to bug them about doing that, because Hunter added, it sounds like 100 or 200 pounds to his snatch here recently by following the Team Misfit stuff. So again, misfitathletics.com or teammisfit.com or the SugarWOD marketplace to support what we do and help us create more content for you. All right, back to the show. All right, so specific goals. I want to be able to run
a marathon,
more than a mile at a 9:59 pace with my heart rate. Ooh, I get to switch. My heart rate it's going to go down here soon. I got to go to
Is he getting older?
Yeah. Gotta go to a 144 here pretty soon.
Nice.
You guys do the math on that if you can.
65 years old. Got it.
16.
I want to be able to run sub 10 miles at that heart rate.
Sub 10-minute miles.
Sub 10-minute miles to be able to do that. Now,
sub 10 miles.
I'm going to run less than 10 miles. All right. Nice job.
I do soon enough need to leave the bike behind as often. The C2 bike, because I've progressed so much on it, and it's like leading me to want to be on it more. And I gotta leave. I gotta leave that behind a little bit. I do think I need to eventually get back into sitting on the rower for that period of time to get more back into the total body for the aerobic stuff. I just literally rip like an entire layer of skin off my hand every time I do it, and I don't care enough for that
I'm buying you some gloves
to happen.
Buy your gloves.
And then the stuff that I referenced within the strength
Mechanics.
I think is definitely a missing piece. If you're talking GPP without strength, it's kind of silly. So even though we came up with this concept in the meeting before the podcast, I did put moderate weight over my head yesterday for the first time in maybe even a year. So I was already sort of trending towards wanting to do that. And
okay
just
today?
a little 5 rep max push jerk. Yeah, no issues.
Great.
I did stop though. Like I was with 2 other gentlemen and I wanted to, do the whole, okay, you did that, watch this kind of a thing. I stopped
my beer.
at 205 for 5. It wasn't easy.
That's pretty good.
I walked over and did my warm up for class on the bike, and I didn't love it, but I did it. Hunter, how are you going to become more skilled in 2022?
Holy shit. This is a easier one. More specifically, is like my skill level with specific chest to bar pull up specifically is absolute dog shit. I would
we get a call
do
from the seismology people.
seismology people.
I guess what we call them.
Yeah,
Seismology.
How were there
yes.
so many earthquakes
The old
originating in
Marsh was over here.
1077?
I would rather do basically the same workout with the same rep scheme with bar muscle ups instead of chest to bar pull ups.
Yikes.
Big yikes.
I'd rather do more muscle ups than pull ups, so I understand.
That's basically that. So my skill level with the chest to bar pull up is low relative to my other movements. So I think that's it's probably a combination of capacity and just like paying attention to movement when I'm actually doing them. So that's a relatively straightforward one for me, because that's probably the missing of the gymnastics movements that we have. That's below average relative to the rest of them. The rest are similar enough that I'm not uncomfortable with any gymnastics movement, except for that the chest to bar pull-ups just bury me metabolically and like muscularly. So
Boom.
I think the goal would be to mix in the climb the ladder,
Yep.
EMOMs, the same kind of stuff we've talked about in a previous podcast, I think, but that's a pretty straightforward one for me.
I think an easy trap for people to fall into are trying to put skill work and blend them into conditioning pieces, almost turning like skill work into gymnastics, or, they have X amount of time in their day and they're like 2 things left. I get a little bit of rowing, I get a little bit of gymnastics. I want to just put them together and make it work. I've found myself falling into that trap too, where I try to be too economical, where I look at my day and go, I have 30 minutes to go do something out in the gym. I want to breathe a little bit. I like to put a little bit of gymnastics in there because I'm not very good at muscle ups and pistols. And those are really kind of the 2 biggest holes in my game when it comes to like the skill-based movements that aren't like a barbell. So for what I need to be working on, it needs to be separated out into sessions that are just like an EMOM of 2 muscle ups on the minute for 15 minutes. It's not a volume issue for me. It's you need to slow down and think on one specific part of your movement and make that iterative growth in that particular thing. So when you go into your skill session, don't go in there with a list of 15 things you're trying to fix. Pick one thing for the day, with whether that's the overhead walking lunge or the muscle up or the handstand push up, and say, I'm going to focus on this one single thing. And for me, it's avoiding as you turn over on the rings, kicking your feet up and kind of running into your own thighs, or potentially throwing my hip forward instead of vertical because I'm impatient. That's a difficult thing to work upon, but it needs to happen outside the confines of a high heart rate, because clearly when I have a high heart rate, I go back to problems and faults. So take the time to do skill work outside of intensity, which is a thing I think a lot of people could stand to benefit from?
Mine is ultra specific, sort of like Hunter's. There's a, if you don't use it, you lose it component to a lot of the gymnastics type stuff. And, I was doing handstand push-ups and walking on my hands before CrossFit.
For school?
I did it. The handstand push-up thing was, based on my dad telling me that you don't need weights, that Herschel Walker just does strict handstand push-ups, sit-ups, like body weight stuff. And he was like the most jacked dude ever. Pretty sure he like was the human myostatin inhibitor or whatever. But
it's like those bulls in Europe.
That aside, I did those things as a kid, and I don't do them. I've never had to like truly stop and work on my handstand walking. And now when it comes up in class, because I don't work on it, everyone else is better than me at it. Like it's sort of like how people are with pistols, like fourth round of the workout when everyone's dying, I'm like, I can finally walk on my hands. So I want to be a bit more thoughtful with what I do for when I do my lifting sessions. I typically do gymnastics accessory work. I want to be a bit more thoughtful about not just using them to get stronger, like doing toes to bar because I want my hip flexors to be stronger and my grip, but like to get more skill to go in and do that. So my goal is by the end of the year to have handstand walked whatever hundreds of times and just have it be comfortable for me again, because I sort of took it for granted that I knew how to do it when I started, and then now I don't work on it at all.
Yeah.
Easy trap to fall into. A very easy trap.
How are you going to improve your lifestyle in 2022, Hunter?
I was thinking about this. So I think for me, the biggest thing is routine. I was finding that despite the fact that I consider myself like fairly disciplined about my, getting the work and stuff that I needed to get done, it wasn't always consistent as far as like, waking up at exactly the same time, trying to like, I found pretty clearly that if I work out in the morning, usually like with the 9 a.m. class, like the rest of my day is generally more productive. Whereas if I have kind of a workout looming over my head, I'm a little bit antsy. I'm like thinking like, oh, I can't finish this. I don't want to keep working on this thing because it might take me up to a point in the day where I can't work out because I have to coach in the evening or in the afternoon, whatever it is. So, I would like to be a lot more disciplined about waking up at the same time every day. And we've obviously talked about that, how important that is to overall health, immunity, that sort of thing, with your immune system and that sort of thing. So, waking up at a more consistent time, and then, I need to be better about my eating habits, more so based on timing. I consider myself a pretty healthy eater, with the exception of the occasional dessert after a 5-rep max back squat PR or something like that.
After bowling?
But after bowling, mostly during bowling. I re-upped mid bowling. Got to carb up. I was low on glycogen from bowling.
Lady comes over to our holiday party. We're getting ready to put the food away, and Hunter's just gone.
Yeah,
sprinting.
it's your frame, bro. He's over there getting nachos. Give him a minute.
Surprise.
It's fine.
So and the way that my schedule plays out is that most nights I'm not home until either like on an early night, it's like 6:30-ish, which means by the time I cook and finish eating or finish cooking, it's like 7:30, 8 o'clock, which is already kind of late, probably relative to most people. And then other nights, if I coach the latest class, it's like an 8:30 at the earliest, more like 9 p.m. dinner time. Circling back, the problem with that is if I don't eat enough throughout the day, I eat a lot at night, just to like get the calories, but that a lot of times will fuck up my sleep. It'll fuck up my digestion. I'll wake up in the morning a little bit groggy. It's just becomes a really easy negative feedback loop to get into. So whether that means eating breakfast more frequently rather than fasting for an extended period of time, or it just eating, like packing more to eat during the day so that I'm not, starving, eating the whole house when it comes to dinner,
right.
I think will be really helpful. And because when I do that, I know that I feel better. I wake up way more clear-headed and like ready to go. That means I can get the 9 a.m. workout in like at the effort level I want, and I'm good for the rest of the day. So lifestyle, it's routine, it's trying to stick with like kind of the consistent wake time, which will set me up for the rest of the day to do the nutrition stuff that helps me both cognitively and physically.
Fuck, you took both my answers. Simple, not easy. The consistency thing is a very difficult thing that I also struggle with, particularly with the fueling aspect. That's one thing that you and I have talked about a bunch.
Sure brings his lunch in every day, and he just stacks his lunch on top of his lunch
like
from
a Lego
the previous
tower.
day.
I want to see how many Tupperware dishes I can stack on top of one another.
So he can handle meal prep, but he can't handle eating it.
That's the hard part, is eating it.
I'm the same way.
The fueling thing is a problem, though, if you're trying to be a competitive athlete or if you're trying to be anyone who's generally healthy. Like you use the gas in the car, you got to put the gas back in the car. And for a long time, it was just convenient to fast because you had X amount of things on your plate, figuratively, and you're trying to get all those things done. And oh shit, it's like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon and I haven't had anything to eat yet besides like a bunch of coffee. Like that's the only thing I put in my body. And if you're trying to improve your performance and both cognitively and physically, your body needs sustenance to exist. And I do think fasting is a great practice. If you're not someone that's tried that before, consider trying with the 12 and 12 hours of eating, 12 hours of not eating. And potentially, even if you are a high level competitor, you can mix that in maybe 1 or 2 days a week. It just can't become your norm if that means you're constantly underfueling and doing exactly what you just described, which is something I'm also guilty of. We run a very similar schedule, is backloading your entire day with calories that you poorly digest and don't get the benefit from. You're typically eating like you're ravenous, you're eating really fast, you're not chewing. All of these things are leading to you not digesting your food.
You can't even say it without laughing.
I can't. So, I mean, I've always been someone who's been a fast eater, but being ravenous just increases the velocity at which you stuff food in your face, which means you digest even less of it. So the two things are going to be consistent with my fueling, and then also the waking and sleep times. I find that when I get in a rhythm of going to bed around the same time and getting up at the same time, I'm more productive in the morning. I have better workouts. I have better stress levels. I don't feel antsy during the day. And the consistency is something that is, again, simple, but not easy. If I were to add only one other thing, it'd be more time for what I call parasympathetic work, but taking time to like be bored and sit around and like do things like yoga and meditation that don't really fit into like my type
Another
A
form
personality.
of filling the tank.
But another way of filling the tank, I mean, it's literally the shirt that I'm wearing right now is all about, taking time to stay sharp by unplugging and getting away from the things that stress you out. Even if they're good stresses, you should take time away from them every once in a while to reset, allow yourself to be bored, because a lot of times it's when a lot of thoughtful work happens and when a lot of your healing happens. We've always joked if you gave a CrossFitter, you force them to take 4 rest days in a row, they'd be like the fittest they ever been on that 5th day back at the gym because they've actually let their body heal. I find myself in a very similar way that when I take time for meditation and a little bit more yoga or stretching before bed, I sleep better. I have better following days. So making sure I just stick with some consistency in some of those things that aren't necessarily the 21-15-9s and heavy barbells.
I think this topic is probably most front of mind right now because what the holidays and the end of the year and these days off do is they say, fuck your routine, son.
Yeah, they enhance the importance of it.
And it's honestly, I don't think it's a bad thing if you look at it in the right way because it lends a lot of proof of concept to having a routine. Like for me personally, I have to be extremely regimented and have like everything based on a routine because my default setting is the exact opposite. And for a very long time in my life, I fought that. Like that, I don't want to do that because that's not who I am. And then you get disciplined enough within the things that you want to be disciplined in and you realize what it does for you to not be stressed out with not knowing what's around the corner, what's next, all of that.
Discipline provides that freedom in a lot of ways.
Yes, it does. Oh man, I got a quote. Hold on. I don't know if, let's see if I can find it real quick. There was one that popped up the other day. The willingness to accept responsibility for one's own life is the source from which self-respect springs. So there's just this piece of like, it's a chicken or egg type of situation. Are you going to like finally take the time to like knock these things out that are always swimming around in your brain? And then you end up having a better personal relationship with yourself, which is something that could be, I think, its own topic. But my personal goals, 2021 was the first year that I came pretty damn close to nailing my fasting goals, including my 36 hours and my multi-day and all that. I feel really confident going into next year with that. Guess what? I'm not a competitive athlete. I have a completely different lifestyle. My lifestyle is based on mental health and longevity. Those are the two most important things to me when it comes to that. So I just don't want people to think that because this is, CrossFit Games type podcast, that's what I'm asking other people to do. But 2022, I want to create the same type of regiment and discipline within hot and cold exposure. I believe it is the frontier the next frontier that will break through all the way to this is what everybody does. I really think that it's been the nerdy thing to do, or if you're into this type of thing, or if you're in the, yoga community, whatever, there are different communities, subcultures that have adopted this. I think it's the type of thing where in the next decade or so, everyone's going to have a sauna. Everyone's going to not tell me I'm a fucking psychopath if I tell them to turn the temperature of the water down in their shower, shit like that. So I want to become much more regimented with that, because that's when I do it. That's if I know, I know what time in the morning that I meditate, I know what time of day that I read, all of those. If I don't have that within my schedule, I just do it randomly or not at all.
What's your protocol? Are you going to go with a specific protocol for hot cold?
Yes. Hot will definitely be daily.
Yeah.
And I do want to do some. I always like to have an N=1 experiment. So there was a study where a group of cyclists did it post-workout. Mm-hmm. So I would like to try that, but the idea...
Hot therapy post-workout?
I would like...
A growth hormone,
The amount of time that session would take, it'd be one of those things where I would only be able to have time to do it once or twice a week.
Right.
That would be there. And then I do not want, if I am doing super high intensity, I do not want to stack stressors and get into an ice bath on that exact same day. Now, I do daily cold exposure in the shower, but I want to incorporate the true ice baths 2 to 3, 4 times a week, something like that. So
nice.
All right. Last but not least, we have mindset.
Oof.
What are you going to do in 2022 to improve your mindset?
Oh.
And you've got a lot of, you wear a lot of hats.
Got a lot of room to improve.
You wear a lot of different hats, so you can choose which hat you want to put on for this.
I think what I was thinking of will encompass kind of all the hats, because it's a thing that I think, man, I wish I could remember what the term is. Good boy, Castle. I wish I could remember what the term is called, but basically it's when so say you're in a group with 5 to 10 people, like your 5 to 10 closest friends, and every time you hang out, it's identified that you are the guy who does blank. And all the joke, I'm trying to think of a good example. One of our close friends doesn't have a problem telling a waiter or waitress that there is not enough food. Like, hey, this is not a portion size that I'm paying for at this restaurant. Can I please have some more? Or, hey, we've been standing here waiting for 20 minutes. Like, can you serve us? Okay. So, there's nothing on the surface wrong with that sort of thing, but people in the group will then identify that person as, oh, he is the guy who does this all the time, no matter what. And then that person...
Group dynamics are very powerful.
The group,
very real.
And then that person takes the identity that the group has given to him and then basically runs with it. And it becomes kind of, I don't want to say a negative feedback loop, because it's not always negative, but you basically become the identity of what everybody else has given to you. So kind of full circle here for me, I'm whether it's a hard ass, whether it's a like he's I would say from time to time like moody, in like has a generally pessimistic or negative view, like all of these things. Yeah, you guys are laughing because you know it's true, right? Exactly. So as much as I enjoy, I do enjoy that to a certain degree, because when we have misfits who come and talk to me, they're just like, man, I appreciate how you say it how it is and stuff like that. And I wouldn't ever intend to change that, because I think that's really important. But I need to be a lot more. I need to pay attention. I need to kind of like work on myself in the sense that like it takes a lot more energy to be negative than it does to be positive. And I'm not going to try to become this like ray of sunshine, but
I hope you are.
I don't think you do.
No, I don't.
I need to, I think for me, it's gotten to the point where it is actually detracting from my ability to do things that I want to do as well as I want to do them. So if I am in a bad mood or something like that, then I need to be, and this is a much like deeper personal thing for me to kind of figure out like what's going on inside my head and how, resolving, whether it's like unresolved issues or just being, whether maybe it's a mindfulness practice or something like that. But I've like done a lot of my own reading on like personality and psychology lately. And like, it's kind of become pretty apparent to me that I need to like kind of do a bit of a deep dive into my own brain, and untangle like certain things that are ultimately like holding me back from doing like the things that I want with all the businesses, with my own personal life, with things like buying a house, personal relationships, all that sort of thing.
Yep.
And I think by the ethereal kind of intangible goal is to be, is to basically dig in to that sort of thing and kind of like open, like from kind of the inside out, open myself up a little bit so that, and the end result might be like, oh, Hunter's in a more consistently like appropriate mood rather than being like some days he's really fun, like good to be around, and other days it's like, fuck, that's a dark cloud walking around, which I can identify within myself when it's happening. But it's not good. It's not helpful to anybody. It's not helpful to an environment. It's not helpful to people that I'm responsible for leading and being in front of. So that for me is a, like, given that I've dug into a lot of this stuff like this year, it's like, it seems like 2022 is as good a time as any to like try to put that into practice rather than just like, if you can read the book, great, but you got to apply what's in it.
Right. So, yeah. I think for anyone listening that hasn't looked into the literature or science or whatever on group dynamics, is you're essentially playing like a movie character within your own life. And to give Hunter some credit after him giving himself an F on his report card there, he has a lot of range, but within different groups, he's playing different characters. And I think the goal would be, I am actually all 5 of these things. And it's not just this goes to this group, this goes to this group, this goes to that group. Yeah. I can go in and do those things. So that's one thing where if you want to do an experiment, think of 4 or 5 groups of people that you're around consistently and see what happens to the way you talk, what your mood is like, sort of how you act within those. And then ask yourself, like, is this what I want to be? Or am I playing a character that everyone else has decided that I am?
Yeah.
Top that, bro.
One big thing I tried to do this past year was to incorporate more meditation after years and years of you begging me to try to do it and just be like, man, it's not as hard as it sounds. Just spend 10 minutes in quiet. And, some people can jump right into doing it on their own. I prefer the guided meditation from Sam Harris's Waking Up app. And I try to do that a handful of times a week. And I would think that if you asked 90% of the population next door if they considered me a positive or a negative person, they'd probably say a very positive person. But I don't think that my internal dialogue is often very positive. It's probably more negative than it is positive. So the thing that I'd like to try to improve upon is to basically give myself the same positive output that I give to others and reflect it back internally, because I do think that like you just said a second ago, your own mindset dictates how you perceive yourself. And it feels disingenuous to be able to go out into the community at large and be a very, positive person, encouraging, because I want people to want to come back to the gym or be around me or interact with me, because I think I have value to bring to other people. And hopefully they see that through, positive feedback and conversations. But I don't think I give myself the same positive critiques and the same positive, I guess vibe would probably be the best way to describe it. So trying to take the narrative that I've learned through a lot of this meditation, which is, thoughts kind of just exist. They are things in the world. And when you attach a certain emotion to them, you give them more or less power than they really actually have. To take more time to be like, all right, you might be feeling this instantly, like angry at yourself or disappointed in something. That's just your initial reaction. Unpack that thought And I think that's probably the biggest room for growth I have in the next year, is trying to take the positivity I put out into the community and reflect it back upon myself. And I have no clue why it is. Like you said, you need to do a nice long personal inventory to kind of figure out why that is the way that you act. Why do you act one way with a group of people and then different to yourself? So I think the room for the most growth in 2022 is figuring out why I can be so positive to others, but I don't give myself the same, I guess, leeway or the same amount of empathy for myself that I do for others.
So 2021, my goal for sure was to get him to meditate. 2022, you will purchase cryptocurrency. If I have to steal your phone and buy it,
don't fucking listen to this.
well, might want to listen to this.
Listen, guy. Yeah.
Non-fungible tokens.
Sherb, I didn't say you had to buy NFTs or shit coins. Sherb will own Bitcoin and Ethereum at the end of 2022. I'm going to give it to him and then stake it so he's not allowed to take it out of the account.
It's basically on sale right now. It's like an end of year sale.
End of year sale.
It's been great for the last like 2 months.
So jokes aside, for me, I changed my answer when Hunter was talking. So based on life circumstances, personal circumstances, I have done a lot of the work that Hunter is referencing. Am I saying that right?
I think so, yeah.
Sounds wrong in my head. Anyways, to me, in my situation, starting back at age 16 or 17, I am not.
Sweet, I'm only 15 years behind.
Very well. Hold on. This is the reason I changed my answer. I'm not very open about it. I'm very secretive about stuff like that. And I think for a very long time, I thought that was the right way to be about it. Like, this is my personal journey and hopefully I, am better out there in the world or whatever. But I don't think, especially as a coach and a teacher and someone who tries to, synthesize information and put it out for others, I think there's a level of relatability that comes with being open and honest about things with other people. So I would say 2022, continue to work on myself like I have been in a bunch of different ways, whether that's mentally, physically, but maybe allow a peek under the curtain or be active in talking to other people about it so that they have, some sort of feeling safe or relatable or whatever it is. So continue to do those things, but not be so guarded and secretive about personal shit like that.
It's tough not to be guarded because it feels being vulnerable. It doesn't feel like you're exposing kind of the worst parts of yourself. But, a lot of people think that they're the only person going through that until they find someone else who says what you just said, and it puts themselves out there and, find that the community that will rally around the fact that we're all insecure people, that we all have our own things that loom over us in the day to day, and making them known and finding commonality with other people is, I think, the best way to make that, make that change. Cause you don't have that guarded feeling anymore. Cause you look to your left and right and be like, oh, both of these people have a similar feeling. They just maybe feel something different about that particular topic you're talking about is a big first step.
I think everybody has a certain level of desire to put others ahead of themselves, regardless of whether it's your family, if you're in a leadership position in work or wherever it is. And that's a noble thing to do. But if if it's being done in such a way where you're not actually taking care of yourself, it's almost like a surface level offering to the world. Whereas if you're able to, be confident and comfortable in who you are, you have a better opportunity to help other people, which if your goal is to sacrifice for somebody else, then it makes sense that you are, I remember reading a chapter in a book that, and the chapter itself was actually called Treat Yourself as if you were responsible for taking care, as if you were somebody you were responsible for taking care of,
right?
Which sounds like roundabout, but if you've got a dog, they're sick, you're going to take them to the vet, you're going to get the medication, you're going to fill the prescription, you're going to give the animal the medication on the day and time at the, in the correct dosage that you're supposed to, because you care about that animal. Something like 50% of prescriptions that are given or written out don't get filled, and even a smaller number of them actually get taken correctly by human beings. And that's just like the, an anecdote to, hey, it's okay to take care of yourself, because that's going to help take care of other people as well.
Yeah. The one where psychologists will connect that to is put the oxygen mask on yourself so that you can put it on others.
Right.
Kind of a situation to go through that. This is going to sound like a joke, but I actually mean it. This is one of the best parts of meme culture, is people realizing that the shit that they go through and the struggles that they have are so common.
Yeah.
Like, and you can probably think of them on a personal level, but the anecdote that I'll give is my wife and I send the marriage ones back and forth, like things that could truly be a like once a year really shitty argument can become a joke when you see that the same different people are having the exact same conversations, fighting over the exact same thing. There's so many things that are baked into our DNA that because we actually, feel them and have the chemicals released, they feel so personal. And it's like, well, you don't understand. You don't feel the way that I feel. You're not going to understand. And then now meme after meme after meme is the exact things that you're going through personally or conversations you're having in a relationship. And you can shrug them off and laugh a little bit as part of like the human experience. So I'm not one to tout social media as a savior for mental health very often, but that is one of the things where you can feel relatability to other people.
It can almost be seen as a challenge too. Like put yourself out there and see what you get back. I mean, you won't know how the people around you are going to interact with you once you kind of put this out there, but I'm going to be willing to bet that 99% of those interactions would be positive ones. They would make both of you feel better if you're willing and vulnerable enough to go out and do that. So, they do exist because there is that common thread between human beings, and the hard part is being vulnerable enough to kind of put these things out into the universe. But once you do, you realize that that monkey on your back isn't, an 800-pound gorilla. It's this little fucking tiny thing that you don't really think that much about now that you haven't done it.
Final thoughts.
Oh, fuck. I think I gave mine. Oh, one of you guys got to take out from me.
I think you should all give yourself permission to realize that you're not a finished project, and that these parts, like the new year, don't want to fall into too many like cliche things. Like I can figure out my New Year's resolution, but it is valuable every once in a while to sit out and put things out into the universe. And one of the things I was actually just listening to the Gary Vee's new book, he's like, people don't practice enough self-empathy. What you should do is take a video of yourself talking about all the things you're grateful for and send them to somebody else that cares about you. And when you have a shitty day and you're, whining them, tell them to send that video back to you so you can remember how many things in your life are good, and that, what you might be going through something very challenging right now, it's temporary. And there is so much you have to be, thankful and, happy that it exists in your life. And that if you practice that self-empathy, you're going to be a more positive person. You're going to be able to help more people. So, put that out there, have that happen. Take the time to do that type of stuff, even if it feels a little cliche, because I promise you'll feel better having done that.
One of the things that we talk about, or I definitely talk about on this podcast, is making your way through life without having that hater mentality. And the idea of it has to be on a specific day is a little silly, but at the end of the year, I love this idea of reflection and going in and just having this concrete reminder that like a younger version of me would have poo-pooed any form of New Year's resolution or anything like that. But if you can force yourself to take the time when, at least in our country, for the most part, you sort of slow down a little bit for a couple of weeks, taking that time to reflect and think about things that you can attack, like you do it in whatever way you want. Like it can be really subtle, small changes, or you can be the type of person that knows you're not going to follow through unless you have a podcast and tell everybody what you're about to do. But don't be a hater with this stuff. Like take some time to reflect, and whatever that means for you, talking with someone, writing it down in a journal, whatever. It's nice to have periods of time where things are slow and we can reflect and like stop and look at what's going on around us instead of being stuck in the hustle and bustle like all the time.
Came up with two things while you guys were talking. The one is that I think all of the conversation points that you heard, and goals, resolutions, reflections, whatever you want to call them, all circle back to it basically being on you to make those changes. Now there's obviously you can get help from other people. You can, lean on your support systems as much as you need to help with that. But at the end of the day, you are fully and entirely responsible for the direction that your training, skill, strength, conditioning, life is going, and you wouldn't want that any other way. And if you're going to say like, oh, like I couldn't do anything about that, I think that's the wrong approach to take. And I think if you were, this is the second part, if you are taking anything that we just said in this podcast to kind of to the bank, so to speak, or you have a seemingly larger problem or thing that you want to address, it's to break it down into like the smallest, most manageable components you could possibly do. And this is like, there's both the psychological side and like the financial side. Something that you guys were doing is that the snowball effect of just like the debt snowball. But the bottom line is that you take what is a seemingly insurmountable problem and say like, and just break it down into its smallest, most manageable part and chip away at it, one bit at a time.
Boom. Did we do it?
Yeah,
we did.
All right, ladies and gents, thank you for tuning into another episode of the Misfit Podcast. And thank you to our show sponsors, sharpentheaxeco.com or Biscayne Boulevard, Miami Bayfront Park. Be there for the dopest Sharpen the Axe gear of, well, I can't say of the year because it'll be the first year. But I mean, maybe it holds value throughout the whole year. If you go to the website, sharpentheaxeco.com, please use the code word Keala, Keala. You save 10%. We donate 10% to the Keala Foundation. Properfuel.co. Use the code word Misfit to save on your very first order. PureSpectrumCBD.com. Use the code word Misfit to save on all orders. And as always, if you would like to support this podcast and all the content we do, sign up for programming at misfitathletics.com or the SugarWOD Marketplace, teammisfit.com or the SugarWOD Marketplace for affiliate programming. And as always, I am at Misfit Coach on Instagram. Slide into those DMs. Let me know what you thought of this episode, what you'll like to hear next. We'll see you next week.